Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Across the Ocean. My name's James in Miami.
And this is Matthias from Surrey.
Matthias and I get together on a monthly basis to bring you this show packed full of as many pro-level hints and tips regarding underwater filmmaking. We've taken you on a journey from our progression through from action cameras up to big camera rigs, and we've taken you into our studio and shown you some of our top editing techniques. Now we're taking you on the road, and we've talked about packing in our last episode, and now we're going to talk about a topic that, whilst it may not be the most exciting thing to talk about, it is absolutely vital, and that is dive camera insurance policies. How you doing, Matthias? It's great to see you, buddy.
It's good to see you too, mate. I'm doing fantastic. Winter is just around the corner here in Switzerland, and I'm actually really looking forward to getting some clear water diving done again, because winter time is normally when the temperature drops and the visibility just gets much clearer and nicer here in our lakes.
Very cool. Is that because the algae goes away in the cold water?
Yeah. Spring is also fine, but as soon as you enter summer and the water temperature just crosses a certain degree reading, all the algae just goes crazy and the visibility isn't really favorable, to put it that way.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I'm happy to hear that. Matthias also has launched his underwater film school program. How's that going for you, buddy?
It's going well, yeah. We've had quite a few subscriptions. People are going through the program. They're enjoying it, as far as I can tell from the feedbacks that I get. Yeah, they're getting better at filming underwater, which is the entire point of the whole program, so that we as a community can actually show the world out there how amazingly beautiful the oceans, lakes and rivers are, and why we should really focus on protecting them so that future generations can enjoy them as well.
Yeah, it's an epic program. Before it launched, Matthias gave me a sneak peek behind the curtain, so I got to go through all of the content. There is so much to learn in there, and it's just super high quality. You follow it in a very linear fashion, you start to finish, and it will make you a better underwater filmmaker. So that's the shameless plug, Matthias. Link in the description below, ladies and gentlemen, obviously. So enjoy that. Go check it out. Shameless plugs. Hey, it's our show. We'll plug what we want to plug.
True, very true. And while we're at it, also, I want to mention that all our subscribers will actually get, everyone who watches this video will get an extra 10% off their purchase if they decide to join the Learn to Film Underwater course. So there you go, a little benefit there if you want to join the program and become a better filmmaker yourself.
A little sugar in your tea, I like it.
Exactly.
So let's jump into it then. And I think we're going to start with a Matthias Labo story time. So I'm going to sit back with my mug of tea. You had a horrific incident with camera gear and insurance. So why don't I turn it over to you? You tell us the story, and then we'll dive into our policy details a little bit.
Yeah, with pleasure. Now this is, I just want to make sure that when you edit this episode, you need to make sure to play some really sad music in the background, make it a bit darker, because it's a sad story that I'm about to tell you guys. When I first started with filming underwater and I got my very first proper set of gear for filming underwater, I got a fancy camcorder, which was probably about 2,500 francs, Swiss francs back then. I got a really proper aluminium housing for the camcorder, and I went on my first trip with that set of gear to Egypt, getting some experience with it, filming a little bit. And on like the third or fourth day of my stay there, I changed from my wide angle lens to my macro lens setup for a night dive. And it was beach diving, so I just went off the beach into the water, and as I'm turning the camcorder on, I see something weird in front of the lens, and I'm like, well, what's that? Well, okay, nothing to worry about too much. And suddenly the camcorder goes out. So I'm like, what's happening? I can't turn it on anymore, nothing's happening. It's all dark, obviously, because we're doing a night dive. So I get back to the surface, I look at it, I'll turn it around, look through the lens at it, and I see that there is, well, not joking, probably about this much water inside the housing. And I go like, oh no. So I bring it back to land, I open it up, I dry it, I try to save as much as I can, but obviously even having the camcorder drying out in like the air-conditioned room. And honestly, I had my room cooled down to like 5 degrees for the next 3 days, trying to get all the moisture out of that camcorder. But as you know, seawater, salt, corrosion, it was a hopeless case. So the camera was destroyed. I didn't have any insurance for my camera gear back then, and my normal household insurance didn't cover a drowning of a camera, because they were like, well, why did you take the camera underwater in the first place? And well, because I wanted to film. Well, this camera is not meant to be taken underwater. Okay, in any case, they weren't covering anything, and I had to buy a new camcorder for, again, 2,500 Swiss francs. And that was my very, very hard learning on why you should actually have a insurance specifically for your underwater imaging equipment.
Yeah, absolutely. And that the key message there in the lesson was you got in the water thinking you were covered by your household policy, thinking that your gear was covered. And they made an exception for it because they're not experts in underwater filming. So their question of, well, why did you take a camcorder into the sea, is a fair one from their perception, but obviously for us it seems completely ridiculous. So that's a tough lesson, buddy. You know, you learned that one the hard way, and I feel for you. I really do. So since then, times have moved on. Underwater filming has obviously, you know, come on leaps and bounds. It's a lot more popular now. What changes have you made, and what insurance do you now carry?
Yes, well, right after this incident happened, I started asking around in my community and the people around me that I know that dive and film underwater, how they're handling these situations. And very soon everyone was saying that, well, they have specific insurance just for their gear that they're taking underwater to film down there. So I looked around and I ended up getting an insurance from a local insurance company here in Switzerland, which is called Helvetia. I don't think that makes too much of a difference what company it is, because it's going to be very specific to the area of the world that you live in. Every single area will have companies that will cover you in that specific area. But this obviously means where you live, not where you dive. It's covering the entire world in terms of if you dive in Egypt or in the States or in the Indo-Pacific and you have an incident there, it's going to be covered, but it's your residential address that matters, that really matters there. And yeah, so ever since that incident, I have gotten a insurance policy with these guys that covers all my underwater imaging gear. So my cameras, my housing, my ports, I've even insured my my hard drives, the SSD hard drives that I use to film on my Ninja V, because they're fairly expensive as well. So everything that I take down there, lights, everything is covered in that policy, and it's worth probably somewhere around 22,000 euros in that case. And it gives me the peace of mind that I know if, for whatever reason, even if I do something wrong setting the gear up, if it drowns, if it gets destroyed, even if it just drops over the side of the boat and I lose it that way, it is covered through that policy and I will get reimbursed for it. I obviously will have to pay a deductible, but in the case of my insurance, that's 300 Swiss francs, which is a lot more reasonable than having to pay for everything from scratch if you don't have an insurance.
Yeah, absolutely. So on that subject then, just picking up on what you're saying there are some policy differences to the insurance that I carry here in North America. So, for example, the policy that I have is also country specific. It's the United States except Alaska and North Dakota randomly. I don't know why those two states are opted out. Obviously there's different state laws, so I guess the insurance doesn't comply with something or whatever. So yeah, 48 out of the 50 states in the US, you can hold this policy as a resident. My insurance doesn't cover if it gets knocked off the boat and the camera isn't recoverable. It does cover flooding, it does cover loss by theft, so I'm not really sure how you discern the difference of knocking it over the side of the boat or it being, stolen out of a hotel room or something like that. But also with my policy, there is a 50-mile rule. So my designated home address, the policy is not active for diving at home. It's only for travel outside of 50 miles from my home address. So that's something that I need to pay attention to. Particularly, I dive down in Key Largo, and that's just outside. It's just over 50 miles from where I live. And the same thing going up the coast. But if I was diving in Fort Lauderdale, which is 15 miles away, the policy actually wouldn't be covered. So that's a slight consideration there. It is really meant for traveling away from home. So that's kind of a weird little quirk. Also, I want to pick up on something else you said about like the hard drives, the laptops and so on. All of the things that I take that we covered in the packing video that go into my carry-on, go into my checked luggage, are on that insurance policy. It's basically my road kit. So I don't, for example, have my studio lights on there. I don't have anything that I'm not going to travel with basically at all, because that's all covered under my household policy and it never really leaves my studio. So it's really just the things I take on the road. And the really important point there is you need to be, when you're filling out the policy, absolutely specific. You need to be able to find the serial numbers for each camera body, plus the serial numbers for the lenses, plus your laptop, your hard drives, whatever else you may be adding to the policy. I think mine added up to about the same. I've got like $20,500 in coverage. And that, like you said, it's just really about peace of mind. But that's just one of 4 insurance policies that I carry for diving. So I have my professional liability insurance, I have dive medical or dive accident insurance, I have a general travel insurance in case of delays or so on, or rebooking of flights that I get through my credit card, and then I have my dive camera equipment insurance that's specific for my housing and all my electronics that I travel with. One question on that, Matthias, is do you put your dive gear, your BCD regulator, etc. on that policy as well?
No, I don't. No, because I think it would just put up the price of the policy to a level which I find unreasonable, really. I just really have all my camera related gear in that policy, because I don't know how it is with your policy, but I find these insurance policies to be fairly expensive, and therefore I'm just trying to add all the stuff in there that necessarily needs to be in there, that's not covered anywhere else, but everything else I try not to include into such a policy. So anything that I take underwater to film down there is covered in that policy. Anything else is covered somewhere else. So I don't mix it up here, because I think it's just going to increase the amount of the policy, the cost of the policy too much. How do you go about that?
I don't put dive gear on my camera policy either, for the simple reason that I have a ton of it, and every time I travel it's going to be different bits and pieces, and because I can't just put regulator, it would have to be this specific brand, this serial number and so on. I don't know what gear I'm taking, if I'm taking my tech setup or recreational setup or gear I'm testing or reviewing or so on. There's too much variety, whereas my camera is my camera and my housing is my housing and it's specific. So I don't, it's like you said, it just bumps up the premium, and it is what it is from that point of view. Cool. So the lesson we can learn, the takeaway from this video is absolutely look into it. Don't presume that your camera housing and your camera for underwater filming is covered by either your dive travel policy or your home or household or business insurance policy, because that is not always the case. I highly recommend that everyone watching this, if you're investing in a serious amount of underwater filming equipment and you want to get to the next level, look for a policy in your country and absolutely make that investment just for your own peace of mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And also keep in mind that if you are going to a place and you've got a mission to fulfill when it comes to filming, especially underwater, make sure that having an insurance is absolutely necessary and great. But what happens in the case of having a flooding while you're on location? The insurance is not going to be quick enough to replace the camera for you while you're still there. So it's always advisable to have a second body with you and a second lens that you can use to continue your filming down there. Or if that's not within your budget, at least think about taking an action camera like a GoPro, an Osmo Action, a Paralens, anything like that with you. At least you can continue filming with that camera while the other one is destroyed before it gets replaced when you get back home.
Excellent. And on the topic of destroying camera gear, I think next month we're going to start looking at tools and saver dive camera housing kits that we take with us and all that fun stuff. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I can't wait to share all my secrets of what is in my emergency camera kit that I take with me on every single dive, whether it is here in Switzerland or anywhere abroad that I go.
Awesome. Mate, as always, such a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. We really, love putting this show together. I look forward to seeing you every month. It's a highlight of my month.
Can you feel it? I feel so touched right now, and I'm sure I'm getting red in my face, but I do feel the same way. It's really great having these exchanges with you and just getting to chat about what really moves us the most on such a regular basis. And so thank you very much for having me once again, and I can't wait to come and see you in person again.
Next month, right?
Next month, right.
I came to Zurich, it's only fair you come over here. Let's hang out, maybe we actually get to dive this time.
I want to. You're not going to get around this. However hard you're trying, I will find you in Miami, don't worry about it.
Let's do it, because I was in Zurich for 10 hours and I was on a plane that evening, so diving wasn't really a sensible option. But come on out and let's put some stuff together. It's going to be amazing.
Absolutely. I'll try to stick around for a little longer than those 10 hours.
Sounds good. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, thank you so much for watching our show across the ocean. It really means the world to us. And I hope you're getting value out of this content. Thanks to everyone who comments on our videos and gives it the old thumbs up. It really means the world to us. And until next time, my name's James in Miami.
And this is Matthias straight from Zurich.
We'll see you on the next show. Thanks, everyone.
Take care. Bye-bye.